All right, let's talk about two little words in programming that cause a ton of confusion: break and continue. You know, they seem so simple, right? But somehow they manage to trip up even seasoned developers. So let's finally clear this up for good.
And hey, if you've ever gotten these mixed up, you are definitely not alone. I mean, check this out. A single question on Stack Overflow about this has been viewed almost 1 million times. Think about that. It's this huge shared headache. But the good news? The solution is actually way simpler than you think.
So, the real question is, how do we make this stuff stick? So you never have to Google it again mid-project. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to find that simple, memorable answer. Let's dive in.
Okay, first up, the simple answer. We're just going to lock in the core ideas here. Basic definitions, and a few clever ways to make sure they actually stay in your brain.
Break is your emergency exit. You hit it, and you are out of that loop completely. It's over. Done. But continue? That's more like hitting the skip button on a song. You just skip the rest of the current round and jump right to the start of the next one. The playlist, or, the loop, it keeps on going.
Here's a great little mental trick I came across. Just add the word loop after each one in your head. So think break loop. What does it do? It breaks the loop. And continue loop. Well, the loop continues. It sounds almost too simple, but honestly, it's a super effective way to remember it.
And if you want something even more memorable, think of break like a breakup. It's a clean cut. You're telling the loop, it's not me, it's you. We're done. There's no looking back. The code just moves on to whatever comes next. It's over.
Now, continue is the total opposite. It's not a breakup. It's more like having a really bad day. You just decide, you know what? I'm skipping the rest of today. I'll deal with this tomorrow. You're not quitting the marathon. You're just skipping this one tough mile so you can keep running. The race is still on.
All right, analogies are great, but talk is cheap, right? The real proof is in the code itself. So let's look at two loops that are almost identical. We're just going to swap out that one little word and see the massive difference it makes.
Okay, so here's a super simple for loop. The plan is to count from 0 to 4. But there's a catch. We've got a condition in there. If our counter I equals 3, we hit break. So let's watch it run. It prints 0, prints 1, prints 2, and then boom, I hits 3, that if statement is now true, break gets called, and the whole thing just stops, dead in its tracks. Notice, no 3, no 4. The loop is over.
Now let's do the exact same thing, but we'll swap in continue. Same loop, different keyword. So again, it prints 0, 1, 2, then I becomes 3, that if condition is true, and this time continue gets triggered. But look what happens. Instead of killing the loop, it just says, nope, not doing the rest of this round. It skips the print line for 3 and jumps straight to the next iteration. And what's next? Well, I is 4. So it prints 4, and then the loop finishes like normal. The only thing missing is the number 3.
Okay, so we know what they do. But now for the important part. When should you actually use them? Like in real code. Let's dig into some practical, everyday situations where these P-words aren't just useful, they can make your code way better.
So, the absolute classic example for break, searching. Anytime you're looking for one specific thing in a big list, break is your best friend. Think of it as finding that one needle in the haystack.
So imagine you've got this list, maybe 1,000 users, and you're looking for Alice. Your code starts looping and finds her at, say, user number 50. Now, what's the point of checking the other 950 users? There is no point. That's exactly where you use break. You find your target, you break out, and you stop wasting computer cycles. It's just plain efficient.
And continue?
Well, it's kind of the perfect tool for the opposite problem. It's all about filtering. You want to go through a whole list and do something to most of the items, but you need to skip a few. The bad apples, the invalid data. For example, maybe you're processing a list of financial transactions, but you want to ignore any that have a 0 value. So your loop runs, it checks the value. If it's 0, you just hit continue, and poof, your code skips all the complicated processing for that one item and just moves on to the next one. It's a really clean way to handle exceptions without cluttering up your main logic.
Okay, so now that you've got the basics down, let's add a little bit of, let's call it advanced thinking. Because while break and continue are awesome tools, a lot of experienced programmers will tell you to use them with care.
So here's a critique you might hear. Some people call them go-tos in disguise. Now, if you've never heard of go-tos, it was this old command that basically let you jump to any line of code you wanted. It was a recipe for absolute chaos, what people called spaghetti code because it was impossible to follow. The argument is that break and continue are also jumps, and if you overuse them, you can end up making your loop's logic just as tangled and hard to follow.
So what's the bottom line here? It's not never use them, it's use them thoughtfully. The golden rule should be, does this keyword make my code's purpose clearer? In our search example, break absolutely makes the stop when you find it logic obvious. And with filtering, continue perfectly says, ignore this one. If it makes the story of your code easier to read, go for it. If it makes it more confusing, maybe find another way.
And there you go. Break is the emergency exit. It gets you out completely. Continue is the skip button. It just jumps to the next round. You've got the concepts, the analogies, the real-world examples. So the only question left is for you to think about where in your run code could a smart use of break or continue make things just a little bit cleaner, a little bit more efficient. Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.